So, hello and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh, and I host various different podcasts here on the internet. One of the ones which we started not too recently ago, about 2 months ago, was that there's a real, genuine, real conversation that people want to have around mental health and also stories that people have been through, but also in a very real, human way. That what we try and do is create a safe space for people to kind of share their own lived experience of things that they want to almost give back and help share value with other people. So, Louise, who I'm going to introduce you today, everyone chose to come on or they were recommended, and obviously they don't have to kind of be here, but it's really brilliant when people are willing to almost share what they've been through and also hopefully help others as well. But also when we talk about it, we do it in a very kind of realistic way. If you find anything that we talk about maybe troubling, or you like to find out more, there's lots of support mechanisms and stuff online. If you want to also show your support, please get in touch in the comments. And yeah, so Louise, I'm just going to bring you in. There we go. So everyone can now see you, which is cool.
Hello.
There we go. Would you be happy to give like a quick introduction on who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Louise Baston. I'm from Newport, Wales, 46, and I'm here to talk about my mental health after suicide and domestic abuse.
Yeah, cool. I'm very appreciative of your honesty and like you just coming on to talk to people, because I know it's not an easy one. But also we might have a cat join us. What was your cat called?
Muffin.
Muffin. And then I also appreciate as well that you have, I think, kids in the other room, which is again, it's that balance that if you have to disappear or grab them or whatever, that's fine. It's cool. It's, that there's no pressure or whichever. So when we kind of originally put the post out, I think it was on Twitter, that what I did was that I reached out and actually said, look, I was looking for an interesting guest to talk about different issues. And what became clear was almost the amount of different people that all have different stories to tell, all equally valid, but actually all of whom seem to have found benefit in actually sharing their story to help and empower others. That, when they're going through a tough time, often when you've got a friend or someone that's been through something similar, I certainly genuinely kind of believe that it can help as well. And I'm sure Muffin can kind of help you through it as well.
Yeah.
But actually, would you be happy to almost share a bit about your backstory, about what you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can reach out and help as many people as possible, that's what I'm here for, and why I want to talk about it and tell it as it happened and as true as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Would you like to almost share your story? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Right.
Sorry.
Basically, back in 2016, I met a man who I thought was my knight in shining armor, who wooed me and seemed absolutely wonderful. Very quickly into the relationship, after about 3 months, he started to become verbally abusive. But you just think, oh well, that's okay. And I'd speak to him and say, don't speak to me like that. And tried to end it a few times, and he'd break down crying and say he suffered in life and this, that, and the other. Then quickly, it became physically abusive. And unfortunately, I tried to take my own life and ended up very ill in hospital. Thankfully, I'm here, and it's something I would never do again. Then within, basically straight after my suicide, trying to take my own life, I became pregnant with my little girl.
Wow.
5. And then the abuse took hold, physically, mentally. He coercively and controlled me, took my phone off me, took control of my bank cards, checking my phone. I couldn't see my brothers, my sister, my mother, my friends. I had my 2 older children, who are now 21 and 17, their father kidnapped them as well. So I was trying to fight for them in court as well at the same time as being pregnant. Very difficult pregnancy. I was ill a lot, obviously, because of the abuse and in and out of hospital a lot. And the abuse just went on and on and on. I did go to the police on a few occasions. Unfortunately, I was let down, which the police have apologised for, and I now work with Gwent Police doing domestic violence and other people as well. I had non-molestation orders taken out against him, which he broke. I left him on a number of occasions and unfortunately went back. I went into labour at 23 weeks, which they couldn't stop. They basically gave me steroids to try and stop it. Thankfully, the labour stopped, but I became very ill after. The police were called on a number of occasions where he would get violent towards the police. It was a very difficult time. I didn't, he would tell the police that I was mentally ill because obviously I tried to take my life previously. When we would be out in the car or out in situations and he would start being abusive, I would get out of the car or in a restaurant and ask people for help, and he would say, oh, she's just come out of a mental home, she's mentally ill. And people believed him. So my abuse went on for nearly 2 years. Especially when I became pregnant, the abuse was very bad. He would lock me in rooms and physically abuse me. So I would always protect my daughter when I was pregnant. I would grab pillows and wrap her up and curl up and just take the abuse. It's very difficult because he had my phone. I couldn't ring people. I tried to take photos of the bruises. He'd delete them and that would make things even worse. And then eventually, when our daughter was 6 months old, and trying to get away from him because I live in Newport and he lived in England, in Warwickshire. So we go back and forth between the two. My daughter was with a childminder. He broke my arm. So I'd been to the hospital that morning and they put my arm in plaster. But then we got home and he started on me, started abusing me, picked up my phone, threw the phone at me and everything, took my phone off me and obviously physically abused me again. And I knew I had to get out. So he said he was going to go in the shower. While he was in the shower, I managed to escape through the front door. I wouldn't have my phone because, you don't think then about the phone. I just knew I had to get out because I knew he would come down from the shower and I was going to get hurt. And I really thought if he hits me this time, I'm going to end up dead. Something bad's going to happen. So I started fleeing the house on foot. He came out on foot trying to get me, to which I ran. He then came in his car, and just so the audience know, it was an Audi A4, so it's a big car, and basically he tried to run me over twice, hit my legs, but I managed to jump the wall. Just caught me and I jumped the wall and sort of hid and walked along the wall, behind the wall, so he couldn't see me. And it's either a fight or flight mode. And you don't, people say, oh, you must try and think like this, and it's not. You're in so much fear and you're frightened for your life because he's going to hurt you or do something to you. And there were houses, there were streets, looking back, that I could have run and knocked the door and said, please get the police. But I was so frightened. My baby was with the childminder and I wanted to get to the baby before he did. So basically after that, he tried to run me over again. He wouldn't let me come out of the street. One of my friends came along. He tried to intervene, and I was so worried about my abuser hurting him, I told him to go. The next thing, he drove the car and went and got our daughter from the childminder. So then he came to me then, and sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. It's okay. All right. It's all right. You're gonna go to gymnastics now. Okay? I will see you later. I've got McDonald's. I've got money for McDonald's. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
If it's a bad time or you want to stop, we can.
So they've just gone to gymnastics. My friend's just come, but Poppy's emotional. So then he came up to me with our daughter in the car, who was crying, and said, "You either get in the car or I'm taking her up to Warwickshire." And obviously I'm not going to leave my daughter, who was 6 months old. So I got in the car and he kidnapped me and he took me to Warwickshire, where he kept me there and our daughter for the weekend. Things had finally come to a head for me. I knew that if I didn't get out of this relationship, I was going to end up dead or seriously hurt. And I knew that my 4 children wouldn't have a mother. And that was something. I was never going to leave my children without me. And my children are what kept me going, are what kept me alive, are what kept me fighting. And the reason I'm still here is because of them and the fight. I dug very deeply, and the fight I found was to live for my children. And he wanted to go to the gym, so I said, and I'd learned how to please him then by saying things after that time. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you go to the gym, you like going to the gym. Yeah, you go and have your time. I'll stay here." Obviously, his mother was there and our daughter. So I rang my brother, who I have a very close relationship with. His mother was there, so I had to be careful what I said. And I just said to my brother, "I've broken my arm," because he'd rung the police on other occasions for me. And I said, "Oh, I'm not feeling very well, and I'm up in Warwickshire." And he knew. So what he did then, he reported me to Gwent Police as a missing person. So then this happened on the Friday. So by the Sunday, I'd had to get back to take my other daughter, get my daughter from her father, and I had to take her to school on the Monday. So I was like, "I have to go home. You have to take us home." He did. He wouldn't leave me. He wouldn't go anywhere. I couldn't get rid of him. And I was just in utter despair. It's the feeling of fear is the most horrific thing I've ever felt. And I had died inside, and not him to go that day. It was awful. And it's something I'll never forget and I'll never get over, which is why I have PTSD and terrible anxiety. But then there was a knock on the door. He answered it, and it was the police. And they had body cams on, and there was 2 of them, thankfully, because he was 6'3" bodybuilder. He was a very big man, known for being difficult and abusive to the police, had a record. He answered the door. He said, "Oh, the police are here for you." And he hated the police. So I went to the door and they said, "Can we speak to you?" And I said, "Yes, you can come and speak to us." And he said, "You're not speaking to them. You're not going out there." Started verbally abusing the police. I was in my pajamas. My daughter was my 11. She was 12 at the time, and my 6-month-old. He screamed at me, told me to go upstairs and get into decent clothes. So obviously, because I've been so coercively controlled and abused, I did whatever he said, ran upstairs, got changed, came down. I was just trying to stay calm because I was aware of the children there. I didn't want things to kick off because the children were there. I didn't want that they could have got hurt, or I didn't want my 12-year-old to see anything because they hadn't seen the abuse, because he would never do it when my children were there. And obviously, protecting your children is paramount, and that's always ever in my mind, was protecting them. I came last on the list. My children came first. So I was trying to keep him calm, and the next thing, he just exploded, went for one of the policemen. Thankfully, another police officer moved back into the dark, because it was dark then, pressed his button. The next thing, it's almost like I blacked out. They were armed response, and in my street, which was a dead-end street, there were 2 police vans and 10 police cars and armed response police. And the next thing, a police officer woman came towards me, went, "Come on, Louise," got me and the girls in the house, and he was outside. So I knew they would be dealing with him, and I didn't care then, because I knew he was safe. And then 3 other officers came into the house, and they were like, "Right, you all right? You've got any injuries, whatever, I got my friend to come, because they obviously wanted to interview me then. I didn't want the children to hear anything, so I got my friend to come and get them. Sat down with the police officers for 5 hours.
Wow.
Making a statement and everything. And basically, the CID got involved then, because it's very serious. So once the CID get involved, it's serious, and they knew. So they'd gone back to interview him. They wanted evidence so they could hold him. Obviously, there wasn't enough evidence, because he hadn't, the pictures of my arm, he deleted, and all this, that, and the other. Basically, when they'd interviewed him, then they came back to me, and the CID officer came up to me, and obviously I'd had a breakdown. I was trying to raise my 6-month-old. I was fighting for my other 2 children. I also had a 6-year-old who I was looking after and everything, and I was in an extremely low place, where you just don't know what's going on. You can't think straight. I was the baby wasn't sleeping, so I wasn't sleeping. And you're just trying to plod along, trying to live. I had no money, because he had all the money. I hadn't been out of the house. I hadn't seen people, not even my family. So I was like, where can I go? Who can I speak to? And thankfully, my best friend who come, and I rang, she was there straight away. And then the CID officer came up to me, and he said, right, he said, "This is it." And I was like, what? Because obviously I had made statements before, but I'd retracted them because of fear, and because I was having his child. And then he said, "If you let this man anywhere near you, you are dead within the month." And it was like, bang. This switch just went off in my head. And I went, I'm doing it. I'm making a statement. I want to do it. I want to get in behind bars. Whatever I have to do, I'm ready. And from that moment on, there was just this fight mode that had been buried, but it just came to the surface, and I exploded. And after that, and the CID getting involved, I didn't look back. I didn't look back. I carried on all the way through, taking him to court. He tried to make out I was a liar, that I had mental health, which they saw through him, because obviously, they looked up, he had a massive, violent, abusive to women background. Once they dealt with Warwickshire Police, and he got an 18-month suspended sentence, banned from driving for 6 months, which I wasn't entirely happy with. But I was happy with. The CPS could only deal with the evidence they have. They could only do, when he pleaded guilty, if he hadn't pleaded guilty, he would have gone to prison. But because he pleaded guilty, they were like, oh, well, it's a 18-month suspended sentence. So from that day they arrested him, I haven't seen him since. My daughter hasn't seen him since, and she won't see him, because even after me, he carried on being violent to women, breaking bones, really abusing them, petrol bombing their houses. He went to prison. He's out on a tag now, but I also have a restraining order for life, and so do my children. So, it was dealing with all that. But obviously, my mental health suffered very badly, because it was then all about, look, I got my children back. I went to court then with my older two children and fought their father in court, while going through court with him, trying to rebuild my life, trying to make sure the children were all right, because they'd see me with cuts and bruises, and trying to make sure they were all right. And I have to say, it was the most difficult, horrendous, fearful time of my life. Something I never want to go through again. I never want my children to see or go through that again. Even though it's 5 years on, I have very bad post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm on medication for that. I'm having EDMR treatment and counselling. I also have severe anxiety, and I'm on propranolol for that, and waiting for therapy. Because obviously we had a child together, I'm extremely protective of our daughter, who's now 5 and in school, but I won't let her go with anyone else apart from my older son, who's 21, but he's in the Navy now, or my 17-year-old daughter, or my very best friend, or my brother. You don't get over domestic abuse, sexual abuse, obviously taking my own life. I'd never do that again. And when I did that, I truly believed that there was no way out, and that's why I did it. But there is always a way out. There is always a light at the end of that tunnel. You have to fight, though. You have the scenario, the fight or flight mode, and it is fight, and you have to dig really deep and bring that fight up, and do it, and believe in yourself, and know that at that moment when you feel that the world is ending, that you feel that you can't go on, what I could have left behind would have suffered so much more. And, I'm here now, 5 years on. I have 4 amazing children. I have a wonderful life. I have a fantastic job. I have money in the bank. I have great friends. The gym, I will always say to people, fitness. I've always been a fitness fanatic. Fitness and my mental health go together amazingly. I go to the gym 5 times a week. In the morning, I do weights, spin, and swimming. And, I still have low points. I have triggers where I can hear a certain song from a relationship. I can see a film that was out, a program that's out, and it all clicks back in, and off my anxiety goes, off my PTSD goes, and I want to just curl up in a ball and hide in the house, but I can't. I have to fight. I don't give him any headspace. I don't think about him anymore. I don't hate him. He's the father of my child. He did what he did to me, but I don't hate him anymore. I never hated him. I don't believe in hate, because it's such a strong emotion. And if you hate people, and you're those people that hurt you, and you're giving them headspace, it will eat you up, and you won't get over anything. You will be fighting all your life. And I know it's hard for people to forgive people, but you have to, I see people's accounts on Twitter who have suffered abuse, or their children have been taken off, and they say they hate the people, they hate this. You mustn't hate. You must let go, and then just concentrate on living your life. And especially if you have children. I do understand if some people don't have children, it can be difficult, but there's always another focus. There's always something you can do. And, you have to believe in yourself. And, I'm probably going to be on my mental health medication for a long time yet, because there's no way I'm ready to come off it, but I'm not ashamed of that.
Mm-hmm.
I something absolutely horrific that no one should have to go through. And until you have walked in my shoes and lived my life, or you have walked in other people's shoes who have been through trauma in any way, shape, or form. Nobody should comment. Nobody should judge anybody else. And don't ever be ashamed to talk about your situation and what you've been through. And I do a lot of work. I've told my stories. I've acted to the papers. I've been on the news. I've been on television programs. And I will continue to tell my story. I can continue to talk about my mental health, domestic violence to men and women. And until the day I die, I will work on domestic abuse and changing it and helping everyone. You know, people send me messages on Facebook saying, "Oh, Louise, I'm going through this." I will never ignore them. I will always help them. And I will always say to them, you go to the police. You have to go to the police. People are frightened of police. People think the police won't help them. There's so much more they do now. You know, everything's so aware. Go to the police. Reach out to people with your mental health. If you are having any bad thoughts or you're worried about anything, even if it's, you know, if it's your doctor, or even if you sat somewhere and you do start talking to someone, if, you know, normally I always feel when you meet someone, you're meant to meet that person. I've met people sat in a cafe just on my phone having a drink when the children have been in school, and I've ended up talking to someone and they've told me, "Oh, I'm going through a divorce," this, and we've become friends and I've given them advice. You know, I've been divorced twice. And always talk, always speak out. Don't go into yourself, you know. And I know how difficult it is. I really, really do. But you dig deep, you fight. Another way that my mental health is, I've always loved animals, always had dogs and cats growing up. I've got a St. Bernard cross with a golden retriever called Willow. Walking her, running around the fields with her, my kitten. I had one cat, but unfortunately, somebody took my other cat. So I've got a kitten. My kitten cats, you know, they come up, they cut you, you know, they meow at you. When I talk, I know it might sound funny, but I talk to my animals and they respond. They know how I feel, you know, and they cuddle up with me. And Willow, she'll paw me and lick my face. I love it, you know. Sometimes just getting up, you know, no makeup on, putting your hair back, going out in the rain with the dog, you know, it's going out in the cold. That is just wonderful. You know, like I said, some days I just want to cool in the corner. I'm like, no, I'm going down the gym. And, you know, I don't want to speak to anyone when I'm training down the gym because, you know, my headspace isn't great. And I know I need to get rid of that headspace and what I'm feeling and what flashbacks I'm having to get on with my day, because I have to pick my children up then. And I'll never let my children see me cry, see me upset, see me down. And, you know, like my son's 21, he's in the Navy. You know, when he was going through his training for the Navy, he had a few moments. And the person, and my daughters suffered anxiety through my abuse. They come to me, they'll ring me, we're all so close, they go, "Mum, oh, this is how I'm feeling," or "Mum, can you do this to me?" And they know I will do it. And they always come to me, not anyone else, me. And Sam and Holly say to me, "Without you, Mum, I wouldn't have got through this. I wouldn't be able to do this because you're so strong." And they say, "You never cry, Mum. You're always happy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am," because I won't let them do it. They know, you know, I'm an emotional person. So if I'm watching a film and it's sad or something happens, I'll bawl my eyes out and go, "Oh, Mum," you know, or anything like that. But, you know, I'm a parent, I'm a mother. They need to see me strong. And they're so strong now. And my younger two are. But, you know, my fight happens every day. It doesn't just go away. You know, I can put makeup on, I can have my hair done, I can put nice clothes on, and people say to me, "Oh, you're great, you're okay." And I look at them and I think, and I go home and I think, no, I'm not okay. Just because the outside is fine, inside is still hurting. And like I said, you know, I've got to have more therapy because my post-traumatic stress is back, and you know, I wake up screaming, and I have lots of flashbacks of the car and lots of things he did to me. but I fight it all the time. And I hope just one day, with the fight and strength I have and my children and my family and friends around me, and obviously, I do a lot of things like this, because even sitting here now and talking to you, who's a stranger, is good for me. It's getting it out there, and then when we finished, I can go away and go, I've told my story again. I've told people not to be ashamed. I hope and pray to God that I have reached out to so many people, and they can see this video, hear me talking, see me talking, and go, I can do this. I'm going to do that. I've got a will to live. I got that fight, and I'm going to do it. And you always have to believe in yourself, because we can, as human beings, do anything if we put our minds to it and get through anything. If we can, and we really, all need to stand together. Everybody all over the world, from any country, any background, stand together. We're all human and all support each other in every way possible. And I hope one day, I know it's a big world and there's so much going on. I just want to get everybody from every country who's ever been through anything, and we all stand together and, do something that means something to all of them, and make something special that can be put somewhere as part of people who have been abused in any way, shape or form. And people who have been abused, we all need to connect, because you imagine, with all the people all over the world, I know it's a big ask and a big want, but if we all connected together, we could do so much for each other. And love, caring and looking after each other is what the world should be doing, especially when we've had lockdown. Physical, domestic abuse, sexual abuse was horrific, and I just want to change it. And I will keep going until the day I die to be an activist, be like a Joan of Arc, a Mother Teresa, to do that. If I could do half as much as they did for it, I will be happy with myself.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. It's like nobody should ever have to go through a tenth of the stuff that you've kind of described, but it's also that balance of where, sadly, there will be people who are going through that. And I think I resonate on many different levels about what you've kind of said. And the worry is that from when you shared your story, almost, was there a point at the start where you hid it a little bit, where actually you didn't want people to know what was going on? And I think it's at that level when there's a lot of people that start to experience things that they probably know is not okay, but it happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hid it really well. It's like the thing with domestic abuse, it happens so quickly, and you make excuses for them because what would happen? I remember the first time he pushed me over, and I cut all my legs and all my hands and arms, and it was bleeding. And I went, "You pushed me over." He went, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yeah, you did." "No, you fell on that stone." I went, "No, you pushed me." And then I was like, "Oh."
Start to second guess it.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I did." And then he punched me in the face and gripped me up and slammed me against a wall. And then I was like, "Right, take me home. I want to go home." And he was like, "Oh, you will break down." Go, "I'm so sorry, but when I was younger, this happened to me." And I'd be like, "Oh, it's okay. Do you want to talk about it? I'll help you." And I thought I could change him. I put up with the abuse, and obviously I became pregnant quickly. So I didn't want my daughter to be without a dad, because I lost my dad at 13 to a brain tumor. And we were very close, and I've never got over that. He left a massive hole. Growing up without a father is not something, or any parent, is not something anyone should have to go through. And I struggled with my mental health again for years, and I didn't want that for my daughter. But I'm a mother and a father. But yeah, I covered it up. But my friends, my close friends and my family knew, because they would ring and I would talk, and they say, what's wrong? and he'd be sat by me and he'd be squeezing my leg or he'd pinch me. And I'd be like, oh, no. And then if they did ring, before he answered the phone, he'd say, don't you dare. If you say something, I'm going to really hurt you. So I'd be like, fear is the worst emotion ever. I just don't like that fear. It's something I never want to have. And it eats you up and it just takes over your whole body, your mind, everything. Because I just didn't know what he was going to do. So I just did as I was told. So I hopefully wouldn't get hurt. I wouldn't get hurt because he'd still pick on something I did, or say I looked at another man, or I couldn't even talk about famous men on the telly without him going nuts. So yeah, I did hide it. I hid it from all my family and friends for a year and a half. It was the police I was going to, but unfortunately I was let down, which they've apologized for since and that. And, it's just one of those things. I don't hold a grudge against them. I work for them now. But, people hide it well,
With the work that you say that you do with them and to help other people, what advice do you give both to the people, which I think you've kind of covered, but also if you feel that your brother, sister, mother, friend is going through something, so it's not you, but you think someone else is, what should people do then?
It's very difficult, and I understand and I know, but you have to reach out. You have to. I know these people, these abusers, they have control of your phone. They check your messages. They might not let you go out. But, women, if they can go into a woman's toilet, and just grab someone and say, can I use your phone? Dial 999. Say, I'm being abused. I'm in the toilet. I need help. Please come now. If a man's being abused, go in the male toilet, speak to another male. Can I have your phone? Speak to someone. When you're out in public, check it's safe for you to do so before you do it. But, like I said, the toilet for a man or a woman is the way, and speak. There will always be someone. If you say, I'm suffering domestic violence or sexual violence, I need help. Can you ring the police now? Stay in the toilet. Don't go out. You're in public. People will get involved. People will help. Ring the police. They will be there straight away. But you have to follow it through. You can't ring the police, get them out. I know it's difficult, and it does happen, because you have to be ready to make that step and to make that call and go through that process. But there's IDVAs out there, there's Women's Aid, there's counsellors. The police will do everything. You have to be honest. The police have so much training now. I do videos for the police, which they show to the new officers about domestic violence. And I've even had strangers who are officers come up and go, Louise, and I've got, and they go, I've seen your video. You're well done. You're fantastic. And I'm like, what, me? And they're like, yeah, because my confidence still isn't, it'll never be what it is. And I do, when people say to me, I've seen your videos, you were fantastic. I'm like, oh, really? Because you don't believe in yourself. But when they say that, I'm like, right. And there is just so much more they're doing. And, try, if you are in a family's home or a friend's home, I would do something like, oh, I think I'm going to be sick. I think I'm going to be sick. Grab someone who well, can you come to the toilet with me? Do something like that. It is fight mode, and you have to fight. But, you need to think outside the box. But as long as it's safe to do so, and they're not going to hurt you again, because you just don't know how much they'll hurt. And, if you could write, if anybody can write, like, help police, when they go somewhere, and then just, like, give some money for something and have it on their hand, as long as it's safe. I'm always saying, do these things as long as it's safe, and that the person who's being abused is safe, and the abuse is not going to see you know, even if you're in the car and you pull up to a traffic light, try and open the door, get out, go to the car when the lights are red and say, help me, please, I need the police. And don't get back in that car with him. And somebody out there's always people who will help. I know people these days also don't want to get involved, but there are people who will help always. So it's obviously, you know, reach out to whoever you know you can trust and feel safe in any way, shape or form, but get out of there.
I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this.
Yeah.
But often, you know, the same token is that, you know, your 4 kids have got an amazing mum and an inspiration for millions of people that might, you know, go through something similar. So it's that balance of where for a lot of people who go through trauma and difficult times, almost the positive, if there are any, is the story that you can tell to help save other people. Does that make sense? And it's just, you know, you are doing an incredible thing, and people will recognize it. And even if it takes 20 years for you to kind of do that, just knowing that this after today, and we'll finish, you know, soon, but it lives on so that people might discover this anywhere in the world, that it's that balance of where part of the reason why I love to do long form content, which is half an hour long, is because people will want to sit and listen and hear the story and relate to it. That it's, you know, people often, I think the difficulty is, and actually Aidan, who spoke last week, who had different kind of issues, he actually felt that it was good and easier to reach out to someone that he didn't know.
Yes.
Because there wasn't the shame, the embarrassment, whichever. But actually often with a lot of people, hearing the story of people that they do or don't know, they'll feel your emotion, they'll feel your story, and actually that could be the trigger that thinks, you know what, I'm not going to let this happen again. But just, you know, the incredible kind of strength when you said about the fight or flight and having a reason to, with the kids, to kind of do it and get out of it is, you know, it is an incredible story. Is there anything you would like to add in, or any sources of support or anything that you want to mention before we go?
You know, obviously, of course, the police support, and they also have other agencies. There's IDVAs, and there's Women's Aid, there's like Cymru, the Umbrella Project. You know, if there's the refugees, I also do work with the refugees. I'm a consultant for them, and you know, it's like I did mean to say this, but of course, there's so much more. I could sit here for hours.
There's no time limit. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like refugees. You know, a man or a woman with children wanting to flee. You know, it's always say, you know, ring the police. I had to go into refuge when Poppy was a week old. The police were like, you've got to go into refuge. I didn't want to leave my home because when I went into refuge, there was no way I wanted the children coming to see me there. And I didn't allow it. And I knew you have to stay there, but they will put you in a refuge and you are safe in those refuges. You know, I know they don't know where they are. And there's other women and men going through the abuse that we've been through, so you can sit and talk. And then it's, you know, it's like, go in there. Yeah, it's a massive thing to do, to pack up your stuff, leave your home that you know, with a baby, with your children, but to protect you. And you have to protect your children, because obviously, you know, when you're being abused and your children see it, which mine didn't, but when your children see it, that's another level. You know, you can't have your children thinking being hit and abused and shouted at and whatever is all right, because it's not. And that's another thing I want to do, what I'm trying to do, is get into high schools, comprehensive schools, and educate from the age of 11, because, you know, the most vulnerable people are the 16 to 20-year-olds, men and girls and boys who get abused. You know, it nearly happened to my 17-year-old daughter, but I saw the signs straight away, so I was on it. But yeah, you know, go into that refuge, and it's, when I walked into those doors of the refuge, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. But I was like, I looked at my daughter and I was like, but I can do it for you. so I'm staying. You know, and it wasn't easy. You know, I'm a very outgoing person. I'm a very outdoors person. I like my space, you know. But I did it until I was allowed back home and that. You know, but for me as well, which I feel I should say is because I was trapped in the house all the time, and I was trapped in the bedroom or whatever room, or sometimes I'd be trapped in the bathroom. I have this anxiety now where as soon as I get up, the blinds are open, the curtains are open, and obviously when it's not cold and raining, the windows are wide open. It's always something that's going to be with me. I don't think I'll ever is an escape route.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I won't ever go through abuse again or anything like that because I see the signs straight away and I can pinpoint any person who's doing it straight away, you know, and you're on alert. You don't switch off from it. And that's something as well. You know, I've been having therapy for that, but I can't get over that. And I do think to myself, well, if that's all I got to worry about is opening the blinds and the windows and that, then, you know, that's okay. I can live with that, you know, but so like I say, there are so much now, and, you know, go on Twitter, and type in things, go on Google and type in things, wherever your area is, there's always support. But first port of call, go to the police if you can, and if you feel you are ready, because obviously people being abused, they have to be ready to take that step. It's not something that just happens. They've got to think, I'm going to do it, and then do it. Please do it, you know.
Well, honestly, thank you. And you're incredibly strong when you give your story. You know, I can tell it's obviously clear how passionate you are about it, but just I know that I would struggle to just get it out and to talk about it, you know, because I try and empathize with it, but it's you know, your kids have got an amazing mum, and again, the people that you work with will take massive inspiration from just having that person that they can talk to.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well,
I just want to do so much, and I have so many ideas and so many things I want to do, but it's protocol, getting things into motion, having money, and like I think, oh, I wish I could win the lottery because I spend it all on TV. But you know, that's
well,
you know, I'll do it. I'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But honestly, thank you so much. And you know, I often say that, especially with podcasts of this type, often the people that will benefit most won't comment and they won't get involved and they won't like it, but they see it. And
Yes.
it's that balance of where hearing someone else that's been through a story, at the very least, if we have 5 people that are suddenly more aware to watch out for signs of things and ask that supportive question. And I completely agree with you that if someone ever approached me and said, look, I need help, of course, you know, I think I can't imagine anyone that wouldn't help, but it's just, you're right, it has to be done at the right time and when it's safe. And
it's like I've seen things out, like the other week, you know, I saw a man shouting at his 6-year-old child, and the child was screaming, and he was there, and I went up and I went, don't speak to you can't speak to your child like that. And obviously I can't really do anything, and he got abusive, but I was like, I will, if I see something or someone being hurt, an animal, doesn't matter what it is, you know, I say to my children, don't ever, I don't even say don't ever step on an ant. It's a creature, you can't do, I won't let anybody hurt anything. And I'm always like, because I was like it before my abuse though, and I was very strong before my abuse, because obviously I lost my dad and I had to be,
mm-hmm.
you know, my mum, the nurse, had to go to work, so I was left at home on my own and had to cook, clean, but you know, when I say to my children, as long as it's safe for you to do so, if someone needs your help, you contact an adult. Obviously my 21-year-old, 17-year-old, like you tell me and I'll do it. But my 11-year-old and my 5-year-old, you go to an adult if someone's being bullied, if someone's having problems at home, you know, anything. I'm like, you help. Don't listen that you can't get involved. You must help, and you must tell an adult. And you know, I always will get involved if I ever see anything. And you know, I've had situations happen where a man's been rude to a woman, and I've also had a woman being nasty to her husband, I've got involved because I'm not frightened. And I think, well, even if I get a punch on the nose or whatever, I'm doing what I should be doing because I believe that's what I was born to do, you know. And I'm a Christian. I have a really strong faith, and you know, I do believe God made me. I was here, and I had, you know, we go through things in life for a certain reason, but I've come out of that, and look what I'm doing now. And you know, I thank God every day that I'm here and doing it. So.
Well, honestly, thank you for your story. It's an incredible story, and you know, I guarantee that it will help lots of different people. So you know, this is the last hour genuinely will help people, and even from one of our friends who's in Thailand has just got in touch. But the point is that there's a big reach with, you know, what we're doing and what we're talking about. That actually, you know, that's the beauty of the internet. But sadly, it's a global kind of problem. But honestly, thank you so much for your story. Give the cat and the dog and the family a big hug when you get later, and enjoy your walks. And thank you for sharing. And please stay in touch.
Thanking you for having me, and it was lovely to meet you. And I'll drop you a message. Yes, definitely.
No, brilliant. Okay, thanks, Louise. Thank you. Bye bye.